Please, don't send me back. The garage door rattled up and Jake Morrison froze. There, perched on his Harley like some kind of ghost, sat a tiny blonde girl 5 years old, barefoot, shivering in nothing but a thin nightgown. Her fingers clutched his spare vest like it was the only thing keeping her alive. He didn't move. Couldn't move. She looked at him with eyes that knew too much fear for a child. Before we dive deeper into this unbelievable story, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this ends. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let's get back to that garage in Portland. Jake's hand was still on the garage door opener when his brain finally caught up to what his eyes were seeing. A child, a little girl, on his bike. What the? Please don't send me back, she whispered again, and her voice cracked like ice breaking. Jake took a step forward, his boots heavy on the concrete floor. The girl flinched, pulling the vest tighter around her shoulders. It swallowed her whole, his old club vest, the one with the patches he'd earned over 20 years of riding with the Hells Angels. Hey, hey, Jake said, raising both hands slowly. I'm not gonna hurt you, kid. But she didn't relax. Her whole body was wound tight as a spring ready to bolt. Her feet were filthy, cut up and bleeding. Her lips had a bluish tint. How long you been out here? Jake asked. She didn't answer, just stared at him with those huge blue eyes. Jake ran a hand over his face, feeling the stubble, feeling the weight of 43 years and way too many bad mornings. This wasn't supposed to be his problem. He'd done his time caring about things. Caring got you hurt. Caring got you... The girl started crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just tears sliding down her dirty cheeks. All right, Jake muttered. All right, come on. Let's get you inside. He moved toward the bike, but she scrambled back, nearly falling off the seat. I won't go back. Her voice rose to a desperate pitch. I won't. They'll hurt me. Jake stopped dead. Who's gonna hurt you? The home, Riverside. She choked on the words. They lock us in the dark. They don't feed us. Tommy got sick and they wouldn't call a doctor. And She couldn't finish, just sobbed into the vest. Something cold settled in Jake's chest. Something old and familiar and full of teeth. What's your name? He asked quietly. Marcus. Marcus, that's your name. She nodded. All right, Marcus, I'm Jake. And I promise you... He stopped. Promises were dangerous things. Promises could break you. I promise you are safe here. Nobody's taking you anywhere you don't want to go. She looked at him for a long moment, measuring him. Then slowly she climbed off the bike. Her legs nearly gave out when she tried to stand. Jake caught her before she hit the ground. She weighed nothing. Felt like holding a bird. When's the last time you ate? Jake asked. Yesterday morning. They gave us oatmeal, but it had bugs in it. Jake's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. Yeah, okay, let's fix that. He carried her inside through the cluttered kitchen that still smelled like last night's whiskey and cigarettes. He set her down on a chair at the table, the same table where he and Tyler used to eat cereal before school, back when the world made sense. Tyler, Jesus Christ. Jake turned away, gripping the edge of the counter. The girl Marcus, she looked so much like Tyler had at that age. Same blonde hair, same skinny frame, same scared animal look in her eyes. Are you okay? Marcus asked from behind him. Jake laughed sharp and bitter. Yeah, kid, I'm fine. He wasn't fine. He hadn't been fine in 15 years, not since the state called to tell him Tyler was dead. Neglect, they said. Complications from untreated pneumonia. The foster home hadn't thought it was serious enough to warrant a hospital visit. Tyler was 7 years old. Jake opened the fridge. Eggs, bread, some cheese that might still be good. How about scrambled eggs? I like eggs, Marcus said quietly. He cooked in silence, cracking eggs into a bowl, whisking them harder than necessary. Behind him, Marcus sat perfectly still, like she was afraid that moving would make her disappear. So this Riverside place, Jake said, keeping his voice casual. How'd you get out? I waited until Miss Patricia fell asleep. She drinks the medicine that makes her sleepy. Then I climbed out the bathroom window. And you walked here? I ran mostly. My feet hurt, but I couldn't stop. How'd you know where to come? Marcus was quiet for a moment. I didn't. I just kept running until I saw your bike. It looked safe. Jake turned spatula in hand. You ran through the city alone in the middle of the night and just picked my garage randomly. She nodded. Kid, that's either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I couldn't stay there anymore, Marcus said, and her voice went flat. Empty. Marcus said if I told anyone what he did, he'd make sure I never got adopted. He said nobody wants broken kids. Jake's hand tightened on the spatula. Marcus who? Mr. Marcus, the director. That's why they call me Marcus too. He thinks it's funny. The eggs started to burn. Jake didn't notice until smoke rose from the pan. He swore, yanking it off the heat. Sorry, Marcus whispered. I'm sorry. You didn't do anything wrong, Jake said, harsher than he meant to. He took a breath. You didn't do anything wrong. He did. They did. You understand me? She nodded, but he could tell she didn't believe him. He scraped the eggs onto a plate. They were more brown than yellow, but they'd do, and set it in front of her with a fork. Eat. Marcus stared at the food like it might vanish. Go on, Jake said. She picked up the fork with trembling hands and took a tiny bite, then another. Then she was shoveling eggs into her mouth so fast Jake worried she'd choke. Slow down, he said. It's not going anywhere. But she couldn't slow down. She ate like someone who'd forgotten what food tasted like. When the plate was empty, she looked up at him with egg on her chin and something like hope in her eyes. Can I have more? Jake's throat felt tight. Yeah, you can have more. He made another batch. This time he didn't burn them. While Marcus ate, Jake pulled out his phone. His thumb hovered over the contact list. He should call the cops. That was the right thing to do. Report a missing kid, let the system handle it. The system. The same system that killed Tyler. He put the phone down. What happens now? Marcus asked, licking her fork clean. Now. Jake rubbed his face again. Now I figure out what the hell to do with you. You could keep me, Marcus said so quietly he almost missed it. Jake's chest constricted. Kid, it doesn't work like that. Why not? Because I can't. He stopped. Tried again. I'm not exactly father material. Marcus, I'm a biker. I've been to prison. I drink too much and My dad used to hit me, Marcus interrupted, before the state took me away. He broke my arm once. You haven't hit me. Jesus Christ. That's a pretty low bar, Jake managed. It's my bar, Marcus said simply. They sat in silence. Outside, the sun was starting to rise, pale light creeping through the dirty kitchen window. Jake could hear the city waking up, cars starting, dogs barking, the distant rumble of the highway. His phone buzzed. Text from Reaper, the club president, church tonight, 7 p.m. Don't be late. Jake stared at the message. Then at Marcus, who was watching him with those two old eyes. All right, he said. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here today. I'm going to make some calls, talk to some people. Figure out how to keep you safe without sending me back, Marcus finished. Without sending you back, Jake confirmed. But Marcus, I need you to be straight with me. Everything that happened at that place, I need to know all of it. Her face went pale. Why? Because I cannot fight what I don't understand. And trust me, kid, Jake leaned forward, holding her gaze. I'm going to fight, but I need ammunition. Marcus swallowed hard. Then slowly she started to talk. She told him about the locks on the bedroom doors, about the meals that were more water than food, about the kids who got sick and never came back, about Mr. Marcus and his special friends who visited late at night, about the basement. Jake listened, his hands clenched into fists under the table, his blood turning to ice and then to fire. Every word out of her mouth was another nail in Riverside's coffin. Every detail was another name on his list. By the time she finished, the sun was fully up and Jake was shaking. How many kids are still there? He asked. 14, including Tommy, but he's really sick now. 14 kids, 14 Tylers. Okay, Jake said. He stood up, grabbed his phone. Okay, stay here. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me. You understand? Where are you going us to call in the cavalry? He walked out to the garage, Marcus's voice still echoing in his head. His hands were steady when he dialed Reaper's number. Steady when Reaper picked up on the second ring. Yeah. I need an emergency church, Jake said. Right now. Jake, it's 7 a.m. Right now. Something in Jake's voice must have registered because Reaper didn't argue. What's this about justice, Jake said. The kind we're good at. Silence on the other end. Then, I'll make the calls. Be at the clubhouse in an hour. Jake hung up, went back inside. Marcus was exactly where he'd left her sitting at the table, looking small and scared and impossibly brave. I'm going to fix this, Jake told her. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to fix this. You promise. There was that word again. Promise. The word that had died with Tyler. Jake crouched down so he was eye level with her. Yeah, kid, I promise. On my brother's grave, I promise. Marcus threw her arms around his neck. She smelled like fear and dirt and something sweet like hope trying to grow in concrete. Jake held her, this tiny broken bird of a child, and felt something in his chest crack open. Something he'd kept locked up for 15 years. Thank you, Marcus whispered. Thank you for not sending me back. Never, Jake said and meant it. Never. An hour later, Jake walked into the Hells Angels clubhouse with Marcus holding his hand. The room fell silent. 20 bikers, all leather and ink and scars, stared at the little girl in the too big vest. Reaper stood up from his chair. Jake, what the hell is this? This, Jake said, pulling Marcus forward gently, is Marcus. She escaped from Riverside Children's Home last night. She's got a story you all need to hear. We're not a daycare. Shut up and listen, Jake interrupted, because when she's done talking, we're going to burn that place to the ground. He didn't mean it literally, but the look on his face said he might. Reaper studied Jake for a long moment. Then he looked down at Marcus. All right, little one, let's hear it. Marcus glanced up at Jake. He nodded, and she started talking. By the time she finished, you could have heard a pin drop. 20 hardened bikers sat in absolute silence, jaws clenched, fists tight. A few had tears in their eyes. More than a few looked ready to kill. Jesus Christ, someone muttered. How many kids still there? Reaper asked, his voice dangerously quiet. 14, Marcus said. Reaper looked at Jake. You thinking what I'm thinking? If you're thinking we ride over there right now and drag that bastard out by his hair, then yeah. We can't just, one of the younger members started. We can't just what? Jake snapped. Sit on our asses while kids get hurt, while they get locked in basements and starved. My brother died in a place just like this. Tyler was 7 years old and the system killed him. I'll be damned if I let it happen again. The room erupted in voices, some agreeing, some arguing about legality, some already planning violence. Reaper held up a hand. Silence fell immediately. We do this smart, he said. We do this right. We get evidence. We get lawyers. We get everyone we can, and we hit them where it hurts in the courts, in the media, everywhere. And if that doesn't work, Jake asked. Reaper's smile was cold. Then we do it the other way. Marcus tugged on Jake's hand. What's the other way? Jake looked down at her. The effective way. Over the next hour, a plan formed. They'd need documentation photos, recordings, testimony. They'd need witnesses who weren't traumatized 5-year-olds. They'd need to build a case so airtight that not even the corrupt system could ignore it. I know a lawyer, said Chains, the club's enforcer. She owes me, specializes in this kind of case. I've got a contact at Channel 7, added Smokey. She'd eat this story alive. My cousin's a social worker, offered another member. She could do a wellness check, get inside legally. The pieces started falling into place. But first, Reaper said, we need to make sure Marcus is protected. Jake, she's staying with you. Jake hesitated. He hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know if that's... I want to stay with Jake, Marcus said firmly. Every eye in the room turned to her. He promised, she continued, he promised to keep me safe. And he makes good eggs. A few bikers chuckled despite the tension. Reaper raised an eyebrow at Jake. Well, Jake looked at Marcus, at this tiny kid who'd chosen his garage out of all the garages in Portland, who'd trusted him when she had no reason to trust anyone. Yeah, he said, she's staying with me. Then we need to make it legal fast. Get emergency custody filed before the state comes looking. I've got a record, Jake reminded him. So do half the people in this room, Reaper shot back. Doesn't mean you can't protect a kid. We'll get character witnesses. We'll get the club behind you. We'll make it work. Jake nodded slowly. It was insane. It was impossible. It was Marcus squeezed his hand. It was happening. All right, Reaper announced. Here's how this goes down. Jake and Marcus, you're going to see our lawyer today. Everyone else start gathering intel. I want to know everything about Riverside, who funds it, who runs it, who looks the other way. We've got a week to build this case before we move. A week, Jake protested. There are 14 kids in there. And if we screw this up, those 14 kids get moved to another facility just as bad. Reaper said, we do this right or we don't do it at all. Jake wanted to argue, wanted to grab his bike and ride straight to Riverside, and Marcus tugged his hand again. It's okay, she said quietly. I waited this long. I can wait a little more. The maturity in her voice broke his heart. Fine, Jake said. 1 week. But if anything happens to those kids in the meantime, it won't, Reaper said firmly. We'll have eyes on that place 24/7. Anything happens, we move immediately. The meeting broke up with assignments given and contacts made. As the bikers filed out, several stopped to talk to Marcus' rough men with gentle voices asking if she was okay, promising her that everything would work out. She accepted their words with quiet dignity, like a little princess holding court. When they were finally alone, Reaper pulled Jake aside. You sure about this? He asked quietly. Taking her in. Jake watched Marcus examining the club's trophies and photos on the wall. No, he admitted, I'm not sure about anything, but I'm doing it anyway. Because of Tyler. Because of Tyler. And because she's standing in my kitchen, looking at me like I'm some kind of hero when I'm just a... You're a brother, Reaper interrupted. You're family, and family protects family. Even when it's scary, even when it's hard. Jake nodded, throat tight. Besides, Reaper added with a slight smile, I think you need her as much as she needs you. Before Jake could respond, Marcus called out, Jake, is this you? She was pointing at a photo from 10 years ago. Jake and Tyler both grinning. Tyler sitting on Jake's bike. Jake walked over, crouched beside her. Yeah, that's me, and that's Tyler, my little brother. Where is he now? Jake's breath caught. He's gone, sweetheart. He died a long time ago. Marcus looked at the photo for a long moment. Then she looked at Jake. Is that why you saved me, because you couldn't save him? Out of the mouths of babes. Maybe, Jake said honestly. Is that okay? Marcus considered this. Then she nodded. I think Tyler would like that. I think he'd want you to save other kids. Jake had to close his eyes against the sudden sting of tears. Come on, he said, standing up. Let's go see that lawyer. Get you safe for real. Marcus took his hand without hesitation. As they walked out into the Portland morning, Jake felt the weight of his promise settling onto his shoulders. Heavy, terrifying, absolutely necessary. He'd failed Tyler. He wouldn't fail Marcus. Whatever it took. The lawyer's office smelled like old books and expensive coffee. Marcus sat between Jake's knees, her small hand gripping his thumb like a lifeline. Across the desk, Sarah Chen flipped through pages of notes, her expression getting darker with every word. This is worse than I thought, Sarah said finally. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Jake's bike. Much worse. Can you help us? Jake asked. Sarah looked at Marcus. Honey, can you wait in the lobby for just a minute? There's a fish tank out there. You like fish. Marcus glanced up at Jake. He nodded. I'll be right here. You can see me through the glass. She left reluctantly, casting backward glances the whole way. Once the door closed, Sarah leaned forward. Jake, do you understand what you're asking for? Emergency custody of a child who's technically a fugitive from state care? With your record. My record's clean for 10 years. Clean doesn't mean blank. You served 18 months for assault. The guy was beating at his girlfriend in a parking lot. The judge didn't see it that way, Sarah said. And family court judges are even less forgiving. They'll use every excuse to deny you. Jake's jaw tightened. So what are you saying, I should just hand her back? I'm saying this is going to be a fight, a big one, and it's going to get ugly. Then let's get ugly. Sarah studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled, thin and dangerous. All right, here's what we do. We file for emergency protective custody based on credible threat to the minor. We document everything Marcus told you. We get medical evidence of abuse and neglect. And we pray the judge assigned to your case isn't in Riverside's pocket. You think they have judges in their pocket? Jake Riverside gets state funding, lots of it. Money like that makes friends in high places. Jake felt sick. How do we fight that? With evidence they can't ignore, with media they can't silence, and with noise they can't suppress. Sarah pulled out a recording device. I need you to tell me everything Marcus said, every detail. Then I need to interview her record, her testimony, and get her to a doctor for a full examination. She's been through enough. I know, but if we don't document the abuse now, it's our word against theirs, and they'll shred us in court. Jake wanted to argue, wanted to protect Marcus from reliving her nightmare. But Sarah was right. Fine, he said, but I'm there when you interview her. And the second she wants to stop, we stop, Sarah agreed. I'm not the enemy here, Jake. I want to nail these bastards as much as you do. 2 hours later, they had 5 pages of testimony photographs of Marcus's injuries and an appointment with a pediatrician who specialized in abuse cases. Marcus sat in Jake's lap, exhausted and hollow-eyed. You did good, kid, Jake told her. Do I have to talk about it again? Sarah knelt down to Marcus's level. Maybe, but every time you talk about it, you make it harder for them to hurt other kids. You're being really brave. I don't feel brave, Marcus whispered. Brave people never do, Sarah said gently. They just do it anyway. Jake carried Marcus out to his truck. She fell asleep before they left the parking lot, her head against his shoulder, thumb in her mouth. He drove carefully, hitting every green light like the universe was finally cutting him a break. His phone rang. Reaper. Yeah, Jake answered, keeping his voice low. We got a problem. Word's out about Marcus. Riverside filed a missing child report this morning. Cops are looking for her. Jake's blood went cold. They know she's with me. Not yet, but it's only a matter of time. You need to get ahead of this. How? Call the cops yourself. Tell them you found a lost child and you're keeping her safe while you contact authorities. Makes you look cooperative instead of suspicious. Jake glanced at Marcus sleeping beside him. And if they take her, Sarah will fight it. But Jake, you need to do this right, by the book. One wrong move and they'll use it against you. Jake wanted to scream, wanted to keep driving, take Marcus somewhere far away where the system couldn't touch her. But that was fear talking, not sense. All right, he said. I'll call them. Good, and Jake, the guys are digging into Riverside. What we're finding, it's bad, real bad. This isn't just neglect. This is organized. Organized how? I'll tell you at church tonight. Just get Marcus somewhere safe first. The line went dead. Jake pulled over, hands shaking on the wheel. Marcus stirred beside him. Jake? Yeah, kid, I'm here. Are you scared? Honest question deserved an honest answer. Yeah, I am. Me too, Marcus said. She reached over and took his hand. But we're scared together. That's better. Out of the mouths of babes. Jake called the Portland PD from a park 3 blocks from his house. Told them he'd found a missing child, was keeping her safe, had already contacted a lawyer. The operator's voice went from bored to alert in seconds. Sir, stay where you are. Officers are en route. I'm not going anywhere, Jake said and hung up. Marcus watched him with those 2 knowing eyes. Are they going to take me? They're going to try. We're not going to let them. 2 patrol cars arrived within minutes. 4 officers, hands near their belts, approaching cautiously. Jake stood up slowly, hands visible, Marcus behind him. Jake Morrison, one officer asked. That's me. And this is the missing child from Riverside. Her name is Marcus, Jake said firmly, and she's not missing, she escaped. The officer's expression didn't change. Sir, we need to take her into protective custody. She's already in protective custody. Mine. We filed for emergency guardianship. That's not how this works. Actually, it is, Sarah's voice cut through. She appeared from her car, which had pulled up behind the cruisers. I'm Sarah Chen, attorney for Mr. Morrison and the minor child. My client found this child in distress and immediately took appropriate action to ensure her safety. He contacted legal counsel and is now cooperating fully with authorities. The officers looked at each other. We still need to take the child. On what grounds? Sarah demanded. She's not in danger. She's fed clean and safe. Unless you have evidence of imminent harm, you have no legal basis to remove her from voluntary care. She's a ward of the state. She's a human being who exercised her right to flee an abusive situation. Or are you suggesting that children should be forced to remain in facilities where they're being harmed? The officer's jaw worked. We have our orders. And I have a court order, Sarah said, pulling papers from her briefcase. Emergency protective custody filed 1 hour ago, granted by Judge Martinez. This child remains with Mr. Morrison pending a full hearing in 72 hours. She handed over the documents. The officer read them, face reddening. This doesn't seem legal. It is. Appropriate, absolutely. Now, unless you're planning to violate a court order, I suggest you return to your supervisors and inform them that Marcus is safe, accounted for, and under legal protection. The officers retreated, muttering into their radios. Jake stared at Sarah. You got a court order in 2 hours. I called in every favor I had, Sarah said. Judge Martinez has been trying to shut down Riverside for years. She was thrilled to help. Marcus peeked out from behind Jake. Did we win? We won this round, Sarah said, but the fight's just starting. That night, the clubhouse was packed. Not just the Portland chapter bikers had come from Seattle, Eugene, even Spokane. Word had spread fast. 47 Hells Angels filled the room, and every single one of them looked ready for war. Reaper stood at the front. All right, listen up. Here's what we know. He pulled up photos on a projector. Riverside Children's Home, a 3-story building that looked normal from the outside. But the next photo showed financial records highlighted in red. Riverside gets $2 million annually in state funding, but they're only spending about half that on actual care, the rest vanishing. Where's it going? Someone called out. Good question. We tracked some of it to offshore accounts, some to shell companies, but a lot of it just gone. And here's where it gets interesting. Reaper clicked to the next slide. Names and faces. These are the board members. Notice anything? Jake leaned forward. That's Councilman Richards. Yep, and that's Judge Brennan, and that's the Deputy Director of Child Services. The room erupted. They're all in on it, Chains growled. Not just in on it, they're running it. Riverside isn't a children's home. It's a money laundering operation that happens to warehouse kids. Jake felt Marcus's hand slip into his. She'd been sitting quietly in the corner, but now she was beside him, listening. What about the kids? Jake asked. The abuse Marcus described. Reaper's face went dark. We talked to 3 former employees. All of them quit within the last year. All of them saw things. None of them reported it because they were threatened. Threatened how? Lost jobs, lost references. One woman's car got torched. Message was clear, keep quiet or pay. Marcus's hand tightened. So we're dealing with organized crime, Jake said. Worse, we're dealing with organized crime with government protection. The room went silent. So how do we fight that? Someone asked. Reaper smiled. We don't fight it, we expose it, and we do it so publicly, so loudly that they can't make it disappear. He outlined the plan. Every biker had an assignment. Some would surveil Riverside, documenting who came and went. Some would track the money following the paper trail. Some would contact every journalist, every activist, every person with a platform who might listen. We're going to make so much noise they can't ignore us, Reaper said. And when we have enough evidence, we're going to drop it all at once. Hit them so hard they can't recover. How long will that take? Jake asked. A week, maybe 2. Marcus's custody hearing is in 3 days. Then you better win, Reaper said. Because if they get her back before we're ready, she disappears into the system, and we might never find her again. Jake's stomach dropped. The meeting broke up with renewed purpose. Bikers scattered to their assignments. Jake stood to leave, but Reaper caught his arm. Jake, there's something else. What? We found Tyler's file from the foster home where he died. Jake went very still. And it was the same setup. Money going missing, complaints ignored. Tyler got sick, and they didn't get him help because they were cutting costs to pad their pockets. Who ran that home? Reaper pulled out a photo. Marcus's director, Mr. Marcus himself. Jake's vision went red. He killed Tyler. We don't have proof. He killed my brother. Jake's voice rose. He's been doing this for 15 years, and nobody stopped him. Marcus appeared at his side. Jake. He looked down at her, this little girl who'd escaped the same monster who'd killed Tyler. The symmetry was too perfect, too cruel. I'm okay, he lied. Marcus didn't buy it. No, you're not. Jake picked her up, held her close. No, I'm not, but I will be when we take him down. Promise, that word again. Promise, Jake said. The next morning, Jake took Marcus shopping. She needed clothes, shoes, a toothbrush, everything. At Target, she stared at the aisles like she'd never seen so much stuff in one place. Pick whatever you want, Jake said. Really? Really? She chose carefully a pair of jeans, 2 shirts, sneakers with purple laces. Nothing expensive, nothing flashy, just practical clothes that fit. Don't you want anything else? Jake asked. A toy, a book. Marcus looked at the toy aisle with longing, but shook her head. We shouldn't waste money. Kid, I'm not broke. Get something. She hesitated, then picked up a small stuffed dog, brown and floppy-eared. Can I have this? Jake would have bought her the whole damn store. Yeah, you can have that. At the register, the cashier smiled at Marcus. That's a cute puppy. What are you going to name him? Marcus looked up at Jake. Tyler. I'm going to name him Tyler. Jake had to turn away so she wouldn't see his face. Back at the house, Jake set Marcus up in the spare room. It was bare except for a bed and a dresser, but Marcus looked at it like it was a palace. This is mine, she asked. Yeah, all yours. Nobody else sleeps here. Just you. She sat on the bed hugging Tyler the stuffed dog. At Riverside, 6 of us shared one room, and if you got up to pee at night, they locked you out. Jake felt that rage rising again. That's not going to happen here. You get up whenever you want. You eat whenever you're hungry. You're safe. Marcus nodded, but she didn't look convinced. That night, Jake woke to screaming. He bolted from his room to find Marcus thrashing in bed, trapped in a nightmare. Hey, you're okay, Jake said, turning on the light. Marcus's eyes were wild, unseeing. Don't lock me in. Please don't lock me in. Marcus, wake up. You're safe. You are at my house. She focused on him, slowly recognition flooding back. Then she burst into tears. Jake sat on the edge of her bed. Bad dream. She nodded, unable to speak. Want to talk about it? She shook her head. Okay, that's okay. Jake stayed where he was. I'm right here if you need me. Marcus crawled into his lap, sobbing into his shirt. Jake held her, rocking slightly the way his mom used to rock Tyler after their dad left. I'm scared they'll make me go back, Marcus whispered. They won't. How do you know? Because I won't let them, and neither will 47 really angry bikers. That got a small laugh. Are they all as nice as you? Nicer. Most of them don't have criminal records. Another small laugh. Then, Jake, if I can't stay with you, will you find me a good home? One where they don't hurt kids. Jake's throat closed up. You're staying with me. But if I can't, then yes, I'll make sure you're safe, I promise. You promise a lot, Marcus observed. Yeah, I do. My dad used to promise things too. He never kept them. I'm not your dad. Marcus pulled back to look at him. No, you're better. Jesus, this kid was going to destroy him. The custody hearing arrived faster than Jake was ready for. He put on his cleanest jeans, his only button-up shirt, boots he'd actually polished. Marcus wore her new clothes and held Tyler the dog like a shield. Sarah met them at the courthouse. Okay, here's how this goes. The state will argue that Marcus belongs in their custody. We'll argue that she's in immediate danger if returned. Judge Martinez is on our side, but she has to follow the law. What are our chances? Jake asked. Honestly, 50-50. Jake's stomach churned. Inside the courtroom, the state's attorney was already waiting. Young guy, expensive suit, smile like a shark. Mr. Morrison, Ms. Chen. Shall we begin? Judge Martinez entered. She was in her 60s, gray-haired with eyes that missed nothing. Everyone sit. Let's make this quick. The state went first. Your Honor, we're asking for the immediate return of Marcus Williams to state custody. She's a ward of the state who fled her legal placement without authorization. Her legal placement was abusing her, Sarah cut in. Alleged abuse. The state's attorney corrected. No formal complaints were ever filed, because the children were too terrified to file them. Order, Judge Martinez said mildly. Ms. Chen, you'll get your turn. Continue, counselor. The state's attorney pulled out papers. Your Honor, Mr. Morrison has a criminal record including assault. He has no experience with children. He's an active member of a motorcycle club with documented ties to criminal activity. This is not an appropriate placement for a vulnerable child. Jake's hands clenched. Sarah put a warning hand on his arm. Furthermore, the attorney continued, Mr. Morrison has no legal relationship to this child. He found her by chance and has since refused to cooperate with proper channels for her return. That's a lie, Jake said. Mr. Morrison, Judge Martinez warned. Sarah stood. Your Honor, may I? Please. Sarah pulled out her own stack of papers. Let's talk about what Mr. Morrison actually did. He found a terrified, injured child in his garage. He fed her. He called legal counsel within hours. He filed for emergency custody through proper legal channels. He has cooperated fully with law enforcement. The only thing he hasn't done is hand this child back to the people who were harming her. Your Honor, there's no evidence. There's plenty of evidence, Sarah interrupted. Medical records showing malnutrition, untreated injuries, and signs of prolonged psychological trauma. Testimony from the child herself describing systemic abuse, and testimony from former Riverside employees confirming that abuse. She slapped a folder on the table. It's all here. Every incident Marcus described, corroborated and documented. The state's attorney paled. Your Honor, this is hearsay. It's testimony, given under oath by multiple witnesses. Sarah turned to the judge. Your Honor, if you return this child to Riverside, you're sending her back into danger. And if something happens to her, it's on the state's conscience. Judge Martinez was reading the medical reports, her expression darkening. These injuries, when did they occur? Over the course of 18 months, Sarah said, while Marcus was in state care. The judge looked at Marcus. Young lady, can you come up here? Marcus gripped Jake's hand. He nodded. She walked to the bench, Tyler, the dog clutched tight. Hi, Marcus, Judge Martinez said gently. I'm Judge Martinez. I need to ask you some questions. Is that okay? Marcus nodded. Do you feel safe with Mr. Morrison? Yes. Has he hurt you in any way? No, he makes me eggs and he gave me my own room and he promised I don't have to go back. And at Riverside, did people hurt you there? Marcus's eyes filled with tears. Yes. Can you tell me how? Marcus described it all again. The locked rooms, the missed meals, Mr. Marcus and his friends. The judge's face went from stern to horrified. Thank you, Marcus, she said finally. You can sit down now. Marcus ran back to Jake. He picked her up, set her on his lap. Judge Martinez looked at the state's attorney. Counselor, I'm going to need someone from Child Services to explain to me how a facility receiving state funding could operate like this for over a year without intervention. Your Honor, we'll launch a full investigation. You'll launch it now, and until it's complete, Marcus Williams remains in the custody of Jake Morrison. Jake's heart leapt. Your Honor, the state's attorney protested, Mr. Morrison is completely unqualified. Mr. Morrison kept this child alive when your system failed her. I'd say that makes him plenty qualified. Judge Martinez banged her gavel. Emergency custody granted for 30 days pending investigation. We'll reconvene then. Sarah was grinning. Jake was too stunned to move. Marcus looked up at him. We won. Yeah, kid, Jake managed. We won. But as they left the courthouse, Sarah pulled Jake aside. This is temporary. They'll appeal. They'll investigate you. They'll do everything they can to get her back. Let them try, Jake said. Jake, I'm serious. You need to be perfect for the next 30 days. No mistakes, no slip-ups. They'll be watching. I understand. Do you? Because if you screw this up, Marcus goes back. Jake looked at the little girl waiting by the door, hugging her stuffed dog, finally allowing herself to smile. I won't screw it up, he said. I can't. That night, the clubhouse threw a party. 47 bikers cheering music, blasting Marcus being passed from biker to biker like a trophy. She laughed, actually laughed for the first time since Jake met her. Reaper pulled Jake aside. We got something. Big. What? Financial records. All of them. Every payment, every transfer, every bribe. It's all there. Jake's pulse quickened. How'd you get it? Let's just say Riverside's accountant has a gambling problem, and we know people who hold his markers. Reaper grinned. We own him now, and he's willing to testify. When do we move? Tomorrow. We're dropping everything to the media, the police, the FBI, all at once. By tomorrow night, Riverside burns. Jake felt something like hope. And the kids. Child Services is already preparing to raid the place. They'll have social workers, cops, medical teams. Every kid gets out, including Tommy, especially Tommy. Jake wanted to cry, wanted to scream, wanted to grab Marcus and tell her it was over. They'd won. She was safe forever. But he'd learned not to celebrate too early. Not until every kid was out. Not until Mr. Marcus was in handcuffs. Not until it was truly over. Marcus was still laughing when Jake's phone buzzed. He stepped outside the clubhouse, the night air cold against his face. Unknown number. Yeah, Mr. Morrison. A woman's voice shaking. My name is Patricia Knowles. I worked at Riverside. I need to talk to you. Jake's grip tightened on the phone. You're the night supervisor, the one who fell asleep. I didn't fall asleep, Patricia said quickly. I was drugged. They've been drugging me for months so they could... Her voice broke. Please, I need to tell someone what's really happening there before they kill me too. There was a boy, Tommy. He died tonight. Jake's blood turned to ice. What? Pneumonia. They wouldn't take him to the hospital, said it was too expensive. He stopped breathing an hour ago, and they're calling it natural causes, but it wasn't natural. They let him die. Where are you? Motel 6 on Powell, room 23. Please hurry. They know I took files. If they find me... The line went dead. Jake ran back inside. Reaper, we got a problem. 10 minutes later, Jake and 3 other bikers pulled up to the motel. Room 23's door was ajar. Jake's stomach sank. Patricia, he called, pushing the door open. The room was trashed. Drawers pulled out, mattress flipped, lamp shattered on the floor. And in the bathroom, Patricia Knowles sat against the tub, blood streaming from her nose, clutching a manila envelope to her chest. They were here, she gasped. 2 men. They wanted the files, but I wouldn't. Are you okay? Jake knelt beside her. Do I look okay? She laughed, bitter and broken. They said if I talk, they'll make it look like suicide. They're good at that. They've done it before. Done what before? Patricia handed him the envelope with shaking hands. Everything. Everyone who tried to stop them. 3 whistleblowers in 5 years, all dead, all ruled suicide or accident. Jake opened the envelope. Inside were personnel files, incident reports, financial documents, and photographs. God, the photographs. Kids with bruises, kids too thin, kids with empty eyes. Tyler's file was in there too. Jake's hands shook. Why are you giving this to me? Because I'm a coward, Patricia said. I saw what they did and I stayed quiet. I took their money and I looked the other way, and now a little boy is dead because I didn't do the right thing. Tears cut through the blood on her face. But you can. You can do the right thing. You can stop them. We're already stopping them. Tomorrow, everything goes public. It won't matter. They'll bury it. They always do. Not this time. Patricia grabbed his jacket. You don't understand. It's not just Riverside. There are 6 facilities, all running the same way, all connected. You take down one, they'll just move the operation. Jake felt sick. 6. Portland, Seattle, Spokane, Eugene, Boise, Sacramento, all owned by the same shell company, funneling money to the same people. And they're protected all the way to the state capitol. Jesus Christ. They wanted me to keep Marcus quiet, Patricia continued. That's why they kept moving her. Different rooms, different schedules, so she couldn't make friends, couldn't organize the other kids. She's smart, too smart. They were going to transfer her to the Sacramento facility next week. The bad one. There's one worse than Riverside. Patricia's laugh was hollow. Sacramento is where they send the troublemakers. The ones who fight back, the ones who talk too much. Kids go there and they come back different. Or they don't come back at all. Jake stood the envelope clutched in his fist. Come with us. We'll protect you. Get you somewhere safe. Safe. Patricia shook her head. There's nowhere safe from them. But I'll testify. If you can guarantee they won't get to me before the trial, I'll testify to everything. Done. Jake pulled her to her feet. Chains get her to the safe house. Nobody goes in or out except us. Chains nodded, helping Patricia toward the door. She stopped, looked back at Jake. That little girl who ran, she said. Marcus, is she okay? She's safe. Good. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I should have helped her sooner. Tell her yourself, Jake said, when this is over. Back at the clubhouse, Jake spread the files across the table. Reaper Sarah and half the chapter crowded around, reading in stunned silence. This is bigger than we thought, Reaper said finally. This is a goddamn empire, Sarah breathed. 6 facilities all operating the same scam. We're talking tens of millions in stolen state funds. And dead kids, Jake added. Tommy makes four. 4 kids dead from neglect in the last 3 years. 5, Sarah corrected, pointing to a file. There's another one, girl named Emma, died at the Sacramento facility, officially ruled suicide. Jake opened Emma's file. 12 years old, hung herself in her room according to the report, but the autopsy photos showed bruises inconsistent with hanging. They murdered her, Jake said quietly. They murdered all of them, Sarah said. This isn't neglect, this is systematic abuse to keep kids terrified and compliant while they rob the system blind. So what do we do? Reaper asked. Sarah's eyes were bright with fury. We don't just take down Riverside, we take down all of them. Every facility, every board member, every politician in their pocket. We burn the whole thing to the ground. That'll take months, Jake protested. Years. So we start now. Sarah pulled out her phone. I'm calling every legal aid organization, every child welfare advocate, every investigative journalist I know. By morning, this story is everywhere. And the kids, Jake asked, the ones still in those facilities. Child Protective Services will have to act. Once this goes public, they can't ignore it. CPS is part of the problem, Jake said. Their deputy director is on Riverside's board. Sarah smiled, sharp and dangerous. Then we go over their heads. Federal level, I've got a contact at the Department of Justice who's been dying to prosecute a case like this. Will it work? It has to. This next morning, Jake woke to his phone exploding. Texts, calls, notifications flooding in. He checked the news. The headline made his breath catch: breaking massive child welfare fraud uncovered. Multiple Oregon facilities under investigation. Channel 7 had run the story. Front page, photos, documents, everything. Smokey's contact had come through. Jake's phone rang. Sarah. Have you seen the news? She asked. Yeah. FBI is opening an investigation. State police are raiding all 6 facilities as we speak. Every kid is being removed and placed in emergency foster care. Jake's heart leaped. Every kid. Every single one. It's over, Jake. We did it. But Jake's relief was short-lived because Marcus appeared in his doorway, eyes wide. Jake, there are people outside. He looked out the window. News vans, reporters, cameras everywhere. Damn it! He opened the door to a wall of microphones and shouted questions. Mr. Morrison, is it true you rescued a child from Riverside? Mr. Morrison, how did you get involved in this case? Is the little girl here? Can we talk to her? No, Jake said firmly. You can't talk to her. She's been through enough. But Mr. Morrison, I said no. Jake's voice went hard. You want a statement? Here's your statement. The system failed these kids. It failed my brother 15 years ago, and it's been failing kids ever since. What happened at Riverside and these other facilities isn't an accident. It's not negligence. It's deliberate, systematic abuse for profit. And everyone who looked the other way, everyone who took money to stay quiet, everyone who let this happen, they're all guilty. What about you? A reporter called. Why did you get involved? Jake glanced back at his house where Marcus was peeking through the curtains. Because someone had to. Sarah arrived an hour later with a police escort to clear the reporters. Inside, she looked exhausted and triumphant. 14 kids removed from Riverside this morning, she reported, all getting medical evaluations. The director, Marcus Williams, the adult one, he's in custody. So are 3 board members. What about the politicians, Jake asked. Working on it. The councilman resigned an hour ago. The judge is under investigation. The CPS deputy director is being removed from her position pending review. In the other facilities, Sacramento, Seattle, and Spokane are shut down. Eugene and Boise are under investigation. Federal marshals are protecting the kids until permanent placements can be arranged. Marcus tugged on Jake's sleeve. What about Tommy? Sarah's face fell. Honey, Tommy died. I'm so sorry. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. But you said you'd save everyone. We tried? You didn't try hard enough. Marcus's voice rose. Tommy was nice. He shared his food with me when I was hungry, and now he's dead because nobody helped him fast enough. She ran to her room, slamming the door. Jake started after her, but Sarah stopped him. Let her process. She's right to be angry. She's 5 years old. She shouldn't have to be angry about dead friends. No, Sarah agreed. She shouldn't, but she is, and we can't fix that. Jake sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. How many kids did we actually save? 73. Across all 6 facilities, 73 children are out and safe, and 5 are dead. 5 that we know of, Sarah corrected quietly. I'm guessing there are more, bodies nobody looked for, deaths nobody investigated. Jake put his head in his hands. How did it get this bad? Because bad people counted on good people doing nothing, Sarah said. But you didn't do nothing. You saved 73 lives, Jake. That matters. Tell that to Tommy's parents. Tommy didn't have parents. He was in the system his whole life. Nobody came to claim his body. Nobody filed a wrongful death suit. Nobody even noticed he was gone until we started asking questions. Jake felt sick. Jesus. His phone rang again. Reaper. Turn on Channel 7, Reaper said. Jake grabbed the remote. The news showed the Riverside building surrounded by police cars, officers leading the director out in handcuffs, and behind him more arrests. The councilman, the judge, the CPS deputy director. They're actually doing it, Jake breathed. Damn right they are, Reaper said. Once the feds got involved, everyone started flipping. The accountant we pressured, he gave up everything. Names, dates, amounts, the whole network. How far up does it go? State Senate, maybe further. This is going to be the biggest corruption scandal Oregon's seen in decades. On screen, a reporter was interviewing someone Jake recognized. Patricia Knowles, her face bandaged, but her voice strong. I stayed silent for too long, Patricia was saying. I was scared, but I'm not scared anymore. These children deserve justice, and I'm going to make sure they get it. Jake smiled. Good for her. There's more, Reaper said. We got a call from Seattle. Another facility worker wants to testify, and someone from the Sacramento place. Once one person speaks up, others find courage. How many are we talking? At least a dozen so far. All willing to testify about abuse, fraud, everything. We've got them. Jake felt something loosen in his chest. Yeah, we do. He hung up and knocked on Marcus's door. Kid, can I come in? Silence, then okay? Marcus was curled on her bed, hugging Tyler the dog. Her eyes were red. I'm sorry about Tommy, Jake said, sitting beside her. You said you'd save everyone. I know, and I'm sorry we couldn't. We moved as fast as we could, but it wasn't fast enough. Why not? Honest question deserved an honest answer. Because the world's not fair, Marcus. Sometimes bad things happen even when good people try their hardest to stop them. That's stupid. Yeah, it is. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, did Tommy die alone? Jake's throat tightened. I don't know. I hope he didn't. He was scared of the dark. He used to cry at night and the staff would yell at him to shut up, but I'd hold his hand through the bars between our beds and he'd stop crying. She looked at Jake with those 2 old eyes. Do you think someone held his hand when he died? Jake had to look away. I hope so, kid. I really hope so. Can we go to his funeral? If there is one, yeah, we'll go. And can we bring flowers? Whatever you want. Marcus nodded, satisfied. Then Jake, the other kids from Riverside, where did they go? Foster homes, emergency placements until they can find permanent families. Will they be safe there? Safer than Riverside. That's not very safe. No, Jake admitted. It's not. But Sarah's making sure they're all in good homes. She's personally vetting every placement. What about the kids from the other places, the other facilities? Same thing, everyone's getting moved to safe places. Marcus chewed her lip. What if the new places are bad too? They won't be. We're watching now. Everyone's watching. What happened at Riverside can't happen again because too many people know about it now. But what if they forget? People forget things. Then it happens again. Out of the mouths of babes. Then we remind them, Jake said. Over and over if we have to. We make sure nobody forgets. Marcus seemed to accept this. She scooted closer, leaning against Jake's side. I'm glad I picked your garage. Jake's chest hurt. Yeah, kid, me too. That afternoon, Sarah came back with news. The custody hearings have been moved up. They want to make your guardianship permanent. Jake's heart jumped. Permanent? Oh. The state's in full damage control mode. They don't want any more negative press. And having you, the guy who exposed the whole thing, get to keep the kid you saved, that's good optics for them. I don't care about their optics. Will it stick? Judge Martinez is pushing it through. With everything that's come out, no judge wants to be the one who sends Marcus back into the system. You're getting custody, Jake. For real this time. Jake couldn't breathe, couldn't think. When, tomorrow, 2 o'clock, courthouse downtown, he found Marcus in the living room watching cartoons. Hey kid, come here a second. She climbed into his lap. How would you feel about staying with me, not just for a few weeks, permanently, like I'd be your legal guardian? You'd live here for real. Marcus went very still. Forever. If you want, no pressure. If you'd rather, yes. Marcus's voice was fierce. Yes. I wanted to stay. Yeah. Yeah. She threw her arms around his neck. Can I call you Dad? Jake's vision blurred. You can call me whatever you want. Even if it's silly. Even if it's silly. Marcus pulled back, thinking hard. Dad's not silly. Dad's good. Jake had to close his eyes against the sting of tears. Okay then, Dad it is. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Tyler, about how different things might have been if someone had fought for him the way Jake was fighting for Marcus. If someone had cared enough to ask questions, to dig deeper, to not accept the easy answers. He got up, went to Marcus's room. She was asleep. Tyler the dog tucked under her chin. She looked peaceful, safe. Jake made a silent promise to Tyler's ghost. I couldn't save you, but I saved her. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure no other kid ends up like you did. The next morning, the clubhouse was packed again. Every biker wanted to be at the courthouse for the final hearing. 47 Hells Angels in their best clothes, or at least their cleanest jeans. Marcus wore a dress Sarah had bought her, blue with white flowers. She kept spinning to make the skirt flare out. You look beautiful, Jake told her. You look nervous, Marcus observed. I am nervous. Why, Sarah said we already won. Yeah, but nothing's official until the judge signs the papers. Marcus took his hand. It'll be okay, I picked, you remember, and I'm good at picking things. At the courthouse, they had to push through another mob of reporters. But this time, Jake noticed the questions were different. Mr. Morrison, how does it feel to be a hero? Are you going to adopt more children? What's next for you and Marcus? Jake ignored them all. Inside, Judge Martinez was already waiting. Let's make this quick, she said. I've got 3 more cases today, and they're all disasters thanks to this Riverside mess. She reviewed the paperwork, asked Marcus a few questions. Are you happy with Mr. Morrison? Do you feel safe? Do you want to stay with him? And then sign the custody order with a flourish. Congratulations, Judge Martinez said. You're officially a father. Jake looked at Marcus. She was grinning so wide it had to hurt. We did it, he said. We did it, Marcus echoed. Outside the courtroom, Sarah was waiting with champagne. Actually, it's sparkling cider because there's a child present, but close enough. Congratulations, Jake. The bikers erupted in cheers. Someone lifted Marcus onto their shoulders. She laughed, clutching her stuffed dog, looking down at Jake like he'd hung the moon. Reaper pulled Jake aside. You did good, brother. We did good, Jake corrected. All of us. Yeah, we did. Reaper paused. You know this isn't over, right? The trials are going to take years. You'll probably have to testify. Marcus definitely will. I know. And the club's going to keep working on this, making sure the other kids are okay, monitoring the system. We're not letting this slide. Good. But Jake, Reaper gripped his shoulder, you've got to live your life too. Raise your daughter. Be happy. Don't let this consume you. She's not technically my daughter yet, just my ward. Semantics. That kid calls you dad. You're her father in every way that matters. Jake watched Marcus being passed from biker to biker, collecting hugs and high fives, and promises to teach her to ride when she was older. Yeah, he said quietly. I guess I am. That night, back at the house, Jake helped Marcus hang up her new dress. She chattered about the hearing, about how nice Judge Martinez was, about how Chains had promised to teach her to play poker. You're not learning poker, Jake said. Why not? Because you're 5. Chains said I'm smart enough. Chains is banned from babysitting. Marcus giggled. She climbed into bed, getting settled with Tyler the dog. Jake, yeah, kid. I'm happy. Jake's throat tightened. Yeah, I know Tommy died, and that's sad. And I know the other kids are still scared, but I'm happy. Is that okay? It's more than okay. It's everything. Good, Marcus yawned. Can you leave the light on? Sure. And the door open. Whatever you need. And can you check that the windows are locked? Jake checked every window tested. Every lock showed Marcus they were secure. All good. Nothing's getting in. And nothing can take me away. Nothing, Jake promised. You're stuck with me now. Marcus smiled, eyes already drooping. Good. I like being stuck with you. Jake kissed her forehead. Love you, kid. Love you too, Dad. He left the door open, the hallway light on, and went to his own room. But he didn't sleep. He sat up listening to Marcus's breathing, making sure she was okay. His phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. Tommy's funeral is Friday, 10 a.m., St. Mary's Church. I'll pick you up. Jake replied, we'll be there. Another text, this time from Reaper. Final count from all facilities. 73 kids removed, 18 adults arrested, 4 politicians under investigation. Federal probe expanding to other states. You started something big, brother. Jake stared at the message. Started something big. He just wanted to save one kid, one scared little girl on his motorcycle. But it had become so much more than that. Maybe that was how change happened. One person deciding enough was enough. One person refusing to look away. He thought about Tyler, about how alone he must have felt at the end, about how much he would have loved Marcus. Maybe Tyler had sent her. Maybe somehow, from wherever he was, Tyler had guided Marcus to Jake's garage, giving Jake a second chance, giving them both a second chance. Jake didn't really believe in that stuff. But on nights like this, he wanted to. His phone rang. Unknown number. Jake almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Morrison. A young voice. Male. Scared. Yeah. My name is David. I was at the Sacramento facility. They moved me to a foster home, but it's not safe here. They said you help kids? Is that true? Jake's chest tightened. Yeah, kid, that's true. Can you help me? Jake looked at Marcus's open door, at the little girl sleeping peacefully for the first time in her life. He thought about 73 kids scattered across Oregon trying to rebuild their lives. Thought about how many more were still out there, still scared, still waiting for someone to care. Yeah, Jake said. I can help you. Tell me where you are. David was waiting outside a rundown house in southeast Portland when Jake pulled up an hour later. The kid was maybe 13, skinny as a rail, shivering in a too-thin jacket. He had a black eye and split lip. Jake got out of the truck. David, the kid nodded, eyes darting toward the house. We should go, before they wake up. Before who wakes up? The Hendersons, my foster parents. They said if I left again, they'd... David's voice cracked. Please, we need to go. Jake opened the passenger door. Get in. David scrambled inside, clutching a backpack like it held everything he owned. It probably did. Jake drove 3 blocks before pulling over. All right, tell me what happened. They hit me, David said flatly. Mr. Henderson drinks, and when he drinks, he gets mean. He threw a bottle at me tonight. Missed, but he said next time he wouldn't. Did you tell your caseworker? David laughed bitterly. My caseworker hasn't returned my calls in 2 weeks. Nobody cares, Mr. Morrison. We're just numbers to them. Bodies to warehouse until we age out. I care, Jake said. Why, you don't know me. I know you called for help. That's enough. David was quiet for a moment. Then, the other kids at Sacramento, they said you took down the whole system. Said you got everyone out. Not everyone. We lost Tommy. I knew Tommy. He was my roommate before they transferred me. David's voice went soft. He used to have nightmares. I'd wake him up so the guards wouldn't hear him crying. Jake's chest ached. I'm sorry we didn't get to him in time. But you tried. That's more than anyone else did. David looked at Jake. So what happens now? You taking me back to the Hendersons? Hell no. Then where you have again? Good question. Jake pulled out his phone, called Sarah. She answered on the first ring. Jake, it's 1 a.m. I've got another kid, David, 13, pulled him from an abusive foster home. What do I do? Sarah was instantly alert. Where are you, team? Southeast, near Powell. Bring him to my office. I'll meet you there. And Jake, don't let anyone see you. If Henderson reports him missing, We need to get ahead of it. 20 minutes later, they were in Sarah's office. She took one look at David's face and started making calls. I'm filing emergency removal, she told Jake. Getting David out of that placement officially, but he needs somewhere to go tonight. He can stay with me, Jake said. You have Marcus. You're barely set up for one kid, let alone two. So I'll figure it out. I'm not sending him back. Sarah studied him. You know you can't save every kid, right? Watch me. She smiled despite herself. Fine, emergency placement with you pending review. But Jake, you need to understand what you're signing up for. David's been through trauma. He might have behavioral issues. He might not trust you. This isn't going to be easy. Neither was Marcus, and we made it work. Marcus is 5. David's a teenager, whole different ballgame. I don't care. He stays. Sarah sighed. All right, I'll draw up the paperwork. You'll be his temporary guardian as of tonight. But if this doesn't work, it'll work. Back at the house, Jake set David up on the couch with blankets and a pillow. Marcus appeared in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. Who's that? She asked. This is David. He's going to stay with us for a while. Marcus walked over, studying David with those two knowing eyes. Did bad people hurt you too? David blinked. Yeah, how'd you know? Your eyes. They look like mine used to. Marcus held out Tyler, the stuffed dog. You can hold him if you want. He helps when you're scared. David took the dog carefully, like it might break. Thanks. You're welcome. I'm Marcus. Jake's my dad now. He's really good at making eggs, and he never locks doors, and he checks the windows every night to make sure they're locked so bad people can't get in. Sounds nice, David said quietly. It is nice. You'll like it here. Marcus yawned. I'm going back to bed. Night, Jake. Night, David. She padded back to her room. David stared after her. She's something else, he said. Yeah, she is. Jake sat down in the chair across from the couch. Look, I know you don't know me, and I know you've got no reason to trust adults. But I'm going to be straight with you. You're safe here. Nobody's going to hit you. Nobody's going to hurt you. And if you want to leave, the door's always unlocked. Why would you do this, taking random kids? Because nobody did it for my brother, and he died. And I'll be damned if I let that happen again. David's eyes filled with tears. The Hendersons said I was worthless, that nobody would ever want me. The Hendersons are wrong. You're not worthless. You're a kid who deserves to be safe, and you are wanted. Right here, right now, you're wanted. David broke down sobbing. Jake moved to the couch, putting an arm around the kid's shaking shoulders. David clung to him like he was drowning. It's okay, Jake said. You're okay now. I'm so tired, David whispered. I'm so tired of being scared all the time. Then rest. I've got watch. Nothing's going to happen to you on my shift. David eventually cried himself to sleep. Jake covered him with a blanket and sat in the chair keeping vigil. His phone buzzed. Reaper. Heard you picked up another stray. Word travels fast. Club's talking. Some brothers think you're crazy. Some think you're a saint. I think you're both. Jake smiled tiredly. What do you think I should do? I think you should keep doing exactly what you're doing, and I think the club should help. Help how? We're setting up a fund for kids who are aging out of foster care, job training, housing assistance, whatever they need. We're calling it the Tyler Morrison Foundation. Jake's breath caught. You're naming it after Tyler. Kid deserved better than he got. Seemed fitting. Reaper paused. And Jake, we're getting calls from other kids, not just in Oregon. Word's spreading about what you did. Kids are reaching out asking for help. How many calls? 37 in the last 2 days. Jake felt the weight of it settle on his shoulders. Jesus. We can't help them all, but we can help some, and we can connect them with people who can help the rest. You started something, brother. Now we see it through. I don't know if I can handle this. You're not alone. You've got the whole club behind you, and Sarah, and every person who's been watching this story unfold. You've got an army, Jake. Use it. The next morning, Marcus woke to find David still on the couch. She made herself breakfast cereal carefully measured and then made a bowl for David. She set it on the coffee table and whispered, "Food's here when you wake up." David's eyes opened. You made me breakfast. Jake says everyone should eat when they wake up. Your brain works better with food. David sat up, taking the bowl. Thanks. You're welcome. Do you like cartoons? I'm watching Adventure Time. Sure. They sat together watching TV and eating cereal, looking like they'd known each other for years instead of hours. Jake watched from the kitchen, something warm spreading through his chest. His phone rang. Sarah. We've got a problem. Henderson filed a report. Says David ran away. Police are looking for him. Let them look. We've got legal custody. Temporary custody, and Henderson is claiming David stole money from him. That's bullshit. Of course it is, but we have to address it. I need you to bring David to the police station. We'll make a statement, clear this up officially. Jake looked at David, who was laughing at something Marcus said. He's had a rough night. Can it wait? No, Henderson's pushing this hard. If we don't get ahead of it, they'll issue a warrant and come to your house. You want cops showing up in front of Marcus. Fine, we'll be there in an hour. At the police station, David tensed up. I didn't steal anything. I know, kid. We're just clearing your name. Inside, they were met by Detective Williams. She looked at David's bruises and her expression hardened. Who did that to you? Mr. Henderson, David said quietly. And he's accusing you of theft. I didn't take anything, I swear. Detective Williams pulled Jake aside. This isn't the first complaint we've had about Henderson, but CPS keeps placing kids with them because they're short on homes. Then stop placing kids there, Jake said. It's not that simple. It is that simple. Henderson's abusive. Remove his license. End of story. There's a process. Screw the process. That man is hurting kids, and you're letting him get away with it because of paperwork. Detective Williams bristled. I don't make the rules, Mr. Morrison. Then who does? Because I'd like to have a word with them. Before she could respond, Henderson himself walked in. 50-something, red-faced, smelling like stale beer. He spotted David and pointed. That's him? That's the little thief. David shrank behind Jake. Mr. Henderson, Detective Williams said, I need you to calm down. Calm down? That kid stole $300 from my dresser. I didn't. David's voice shook. I didn't take anything. You calling me a liar? I'm calling you a drunk, Jake said. His voice was quiet, dangerous, and an abuser. And if you come near this kid again, you'll deal with me. Henderson stepped forward, chest puffed. You threatening me? Stating facts. Gentlemen, Detective Williams intervened. Mr. Henderson, do you have proof David took this money? It was in my dresser, and now it's gone. Who else could have taken it? Your wife, a friend, anyone who's been in your house in the last 48 hours? Henderson faltered. Well, and these injuries on David's face, how did those happen? He fell. He fell into a fist. Jake's voice dripped sarcasm. Stay out of this, Henderson snapped. Can't do that. See, I'm David's legal guardian now, so this is exactly my business. Henderson's face went purple. You can't just take someone's foster kid. I didn't. The state removed him from your care due to credible allegations of abuse. You want to contest that, take it up with child services. This is bullshit. I want my money back. I think we're done here, Detective Williams said firmly. Mr. Henderson, unless you can provide evidence of theft, I'm dismissing this complaint. And I'm forwarding my report to CPS recommending suspension of your foster license pending investigation. You can't. I just did. Leave, now, before I arrest you for harassment. Henderson left, cursing the whole way. Detective Williams turned to Jake. You're making enemies, Mr. Morrison. Good. Maybe they'll think twice before hurting kids. She almost smiled. For what it's worth, I'm glad David's with you instead of people like Henderson. How many other kids are with people like Henderson? Her smile faded. Too many. Back in the truck, David was shaking. Thank you for standing up for me. You don't thank people for doing the right thing, kid. That twist is just basic human decency. Most people don't have basic human decency. Then we'll prove them wrong. That afternoon, more calls came. Kids from other facilities. Kids in bad placements. Kids who'd heard about Jake and wanted help. Sarah fielded most of them, connecting kids with resources, lawyers, safe houses. But 3 cases she brought directly to Jake. Sisters, she said, ages 6, 9, and 11, removed from Riverside, currently in a group home, but it's overcrowded, and the oldest Emma, she's having nightmares acting out. They need stability. Jake looked at his small house, 2 bedrooms, already stretched thin with Marcus and David. I can't fit 3 more kids here. I know, but Jake, these girls have been separated twice already. Every placement splits them up. Emma's trying to hold her sisters together, and she's 11 years old. She needs help. Jake closed his eyes. What are you asking me? I'm asking if you know anyone with space, anyone willing to take 3 kids who've been through hell. Jake thought for a moment, then pulled out his phone, called Reaper. Need a favor, Jake said when Reaper answered. Name it. You still have that property out in Gresham, the one you were going to turn into a clubhouse? Yeah, why? How fast can we turn it into a group home instead? Silence on the other end. Then you're serious. Dead serious. We need space for kids who can't find placements. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they can stay together. Jake, that's a huge undertaking. I know. But we've got resources, we've got manpower, and we've got kids who need help right now. Can we do it? More silence. Then Balatin, give me 24 hours. I'll make calls. He hung up. Sarah was staring at Jake. Did you just talk a motorcycle club into opening a group home? Maybe. We'll see. Jake Morrison, you continue to surprise me. Yeah, well, desperate times. That night, Jake told Marcus and David about the plan. So we might have more kids staying here, Marcus asked. Not here, at a different house. But same idea. A safe place for kids who need it. Like a superhero hideout, Marcus said. David snorted. More like a refugee camp. Hey, Jake said, it's better than where you were. Anything's beher than where I was. Marcus climbed into Jake's lap. Can I help with the other kids? Help how? I know what it's like to be scared. Maybe I can tell them it gets better. Jake's heart cracked open a little more. Yeah, kid, you can help. The next day, Reaper called back. It's happening. Club voted unanimous yes. We're converting the Gresham property. Should be ready in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We're motivated, and we've got contractors who owe us favors. Also, Channel 7 wants to cover the story, build public support. I don't want this to be a media circus. It won't be, but Jake, if we're going to do this right, we need funding, public donations, community support. The club can kick in, but this needs to be bigger than us. Jake knew he was right. All right, set up the interview. The interview aired 3 days later. Jake, Reaper, and Sarah sitting in the half-finished Gresham property talking about their vision. This isn't just a group home, Sarah explained. It's a model for how the system should work. Small ratios, trauma-informed care, keeping siblings together. Everything the current system fails at. Why are you doing this? The reporter asked Jake. Jake thought about Tyler, about Marcus, about David and the 3 sisters and the 37 kids who'd called asking for help. Because nobody else is, he said simply. The response was overwhelming. Donations poured in. Volunteers came forward. Therapists, teachers, doctors, all offering services. Within a week, they had enough funding to hire full-time staff. Within 2 weeks, the house was ready. Emma, Riley, and Sophie moved in first. 3 girls with matching blonde hair and cautious eyes. Emma held her sister's hands like letting go would make them disappear. This is your room, Jake told them, showing them the bedroom. You 3 together. No separating. Emma's eyes filled with tears. We can stay together. As long as you want. Riley, the 9-year-old, asked, is this forever? We're going to try to make it forever, Sarah said gently. But even if forever doesn't work out, we'll make sure you 3 stay together. That's a promise. Sophie, the 6-year-old, tugged Jake's sleeve. Are you going to be our dad, like you're Marcus's dad? Jake crouched down. I'm going to be your friend and your protector, and someone who makes sure you're safe and happy. Is that okay? Sophie considered this. Can friends make pancakes? Jake laughed. Friends can definitely make pancakes. Over the next month, more kids moved in. The Gresham house filled up 12 kids total, ranging from 5 to 16. Each one with their own story. Each one carrying trauma like a backpack they couldn't put down. Jake split his time between his house and Gresham, making sure everyone was settling in. Marcus came with him most days, appointing herself as the official welcome committee. See, she'd tell new arrivals. It's scary at first, but then it gets better. And Jake never locks doors, and there's always food and nobody hits you. Simple truths that shouldn't have been revolutionary but were. David stepped into an older brother role, helping the younger kids with homework, teaching them how to play basketball, being the steady presence they needed. He still had nightmares, still flinched at loud noises. But he was healing. They all were. Tommy's funeral came and went. A small service attended by Jake, Marcus, Sarah, and a handful of former Sacramento residents. Tommy was buried in a donated plot, his headstone paid for by the club. Marcus left flowers and a note that said, "You're not alone anymore. We remember you." The trial started in November. Director Marcus, the adult one, sat in court looking smug until the prosecution presented their evidence. Financial records, testimony from employees, medical reports from 73 children. Patricia took the stand, her voice shaking but clear. She told everything. The drugs in her coffee, the threats, the deaths covered up as accidents. When she finished, Director Marcus's smugness was gone. David testified next. At 13, he described years of abuse with heartbreaking clarity. "They treated us like inventory," he said, "like we were worth less than the furniture." The defense attorney tried to discredit him. "Isn't it true you've been in trouble before behavioral issues?" "Yeah," David said, "because I was being abused. Turns out kids act out when adults hurt them. Funny how that works." The courtroom went silent. Emma testified about her sisters, about fighting to keep them together while the system tried to split them apart, about watching other kids disappear into the Sacramento facility and never come back the same. Marcus was too young to testify, but her medical records spoke for her. Photos of injuries, documentation of malnutrition, evidence of prolonged psychological trauma. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, guilty on all counts. Director Marcus got 20 years. The judge who'd been taking bribes got 15. The councilman got 10. The CPS deputy director lost her job and pension. "It's not enough," Jake said as they left the courthouse. "It never is," Sarah agreed. "But it's something, and it sends a message. The system's being watched now. They can't get away with this anymore. Until people forget." "Then we remind them," Sarah said, echoing Jake's words to Marcus months ago. Christmas came. The Gresham house was decorated within an inch of its life. Marcus had insisted on helping, and she'd taken the job seriously. Every kid got presents. Nothing extravagant, but thoughtful. Things they'd actually use and want. Sophie unwrapped an art set and burst into tears. "Nobody's ever given me a real present before." "We'll get used to it," Jake said, "because this is happening every year from now on." That night, all 12 kids plus Marcus and David piled into the living room. Jake sat in the middle, kids sprawled around him like puppies. They watched Christmas movies and ate too much candy, and for a few hours forgot about everything they'd been through. Marcus fell asleep against Jake's shoulder. David dozed on the couch. Emma held Riley and Sophie close, all three girls finally looking peaceful. Reaper found Jake in the kitchen later. "You did it, brother. You actually did it." "We did it," Jake corrected. "I couldn't have done any of this alone." "Maybe, but you started it. You saw a kid who needed help, and you didn't look away. That's everything." Jake thought about that morning months ago. Marcus on his motorcycle, those scared blue eyes, that desperate plea. If he'd made a different choice, where would she be now? Where would any of them be? "It was the easiest decision I ever made," Jake said. "I just wish I'd made it sooner for Tyler." You can't change the past, but you change the future for 13 kids. That's not nothing. 13 kids out of how many thousands still trapped in bad situations. So we keep working, the fund's growing. We've got satellite houses opening in Seattle and Sacramento. Other clubs are getting involved. This is becoming a movement, Jake. A movement started by a scared little girl and a burned-out biker, Jake said. The best movements usually start that way. Reaper clapped him on the shoulder. "Merry Christmas, Dad." Jake smiled. "Merry Christmas." Later, after everyone was asleep, Jake stood outside the Gresham house looking up at the stars. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but, yeah, Mr. Morrison. A girl's voice, young, scared. "My name is Jasmine. I'm at a facility in Sacramento. I heard you help kids. Is that true?" Jake closed his eyes. "Here we go again." "Yeah," he said. "That's true. Tell me what's happening." Jasmine started talking. Another facility, different name, same story. Kids being hurt, money being stolen, nobody listening. I'll be there tomorrow, Jake promised. Hang tight. Help's coming. He hung up and immediately called Sarah. She answered groggily. Jake, it's midnight. We've got another facility. Sacramento. Girl named Jasmine just called. It's bad. Sarah was instantly awake. How bad? Sounds like Riverside bad. Maybe worse. Damn it. I thought we cleaned Sacramento out. We did. This is a new one or an old one we missed? All right, I'll start making calls. I know what we need. Same playbook as before. Evidence lawyers, media pressure. This is going to be your life now, isn't it? Sarah asked quietly. Kids calling, you answering, over and over. Looks like it. And you're okay with that. Jake looked back at the house, at the lights left on in every room because these kids couldn't sleep in the dark, at the windows secured because they needed to feel safe, at the home they'd built together out of broken pieces. Yeah, he said. I'm okay with that. He hung up and went back inside. Marcus had woken up standing in the hallway with Tyler the dog. Who was that? She asked. Another kid who needs help. Are you going to help them? Yeah. Marcus nodded, satisfied. Good, that's what we do now. Yeah, kid, that's what we do. She took his hand. Come on, I can't sleep when you're not here. Jake let her lead him to the couch. She curled up beside him, already drifting off. Around them, the house breathed with the presence of 13 sleeping children. 13 lives saved. 13 futures rewritten. And somewhere out there, Jasmine was waiting, along with dozens, hundreds of other kids who needed someone to care enough to fight. Jake wasn't a hero. He was just a guy who'd made a promise to a little girl on a motorcycle and to his brother's ghost. But if keeping that promise meant fighting the whole damn system, then that's what he'd do. For Marcus, for Tyler, for every kid who'd ever been failed by the people meant to protect them. He closed his eyes, already planning tomorrow's rescue, and for the first time in 15 years, he slept without nightmares. The Sacramento facility turned out to be worse than Riverside. Jake and Reaper pulled up at dawn, hammers ready, and what they documented made Jake's blood boil. Kids in cages, actual cages like animals. Jasmine met them at the fence, her face, gaunt eyes hollow. You came, she whispered. I promised, didn't I? Within 6 hours, the facility was raided. 23 kids removed. The director arrested on site, but one of those kids, a boy named Michael, didn't make it. He died 3 days before from an infection that went untreated. His body was still in the basement. Jake punched a wall when he heard. Reaper had to physically restrain him. We were too late, Jake said, voice breaking. We saved 23, Reaper reminded him. 23 kids who'd be dead within a year if we hadn't moved. But Michael's death isn't on you. It's on them. And they're going to pay for it. They did pay. The Sacramento director got 30 years. But it didn't bring Michael back. That night, Jake sat in his truck outside the Gresham house, unable to go inside. Unable to face the kids who trusted him to keep them safe when he kept failing. His phone rang. Marcus. Dad, where are you? Outside. Why, just thinking. About the boy who died. Jake closed his eyes. How did you know about that? David told me. He said you were sad because you couldn't save everyone. Yeah. Can I come outside? It's cold. I'm already coming. The front door opened. Marcus appeared in her pajamas and jacket, crossing the yard to his truck. She climbed in without asking, settling into his lap. You can't save everyone, she said. That's what you told me when Tommy died, remember? Yeah. So why are you mad at yourself for the same thing? Out of the mouths of babes. Because I should have moved faster. Should have known about that facility sooner. How you're not psychic. You can't know about every bad place. Marcus looked up at him. You saved me. You saved David. You saved Emma and Riley and Sophie and everyone at our house. You saved Jasmine. That's a lot of people, Dad. It's not enough. It's never going to be enough if you're counting the ones you couldn't save instead of the ones you did. She hugged him tight. I'm glad you saved me. Even if you couldn't save everyone else, I'm still glad. Jake held her, something breaking loose in his chest. Me too, kid. Me too. 2 months later, the Tyler Morrison Foundation was officially established. Nonprofit status approved. Board of directors assembled Sarah, Reaper, Patricia, and 3 former foster kids who'd aged out successfully. Their mission to identify and shut down abusive facilities while providing safe placements for displaced children. The media coverage was relentless. Jake became a face of the movement whether he wanted to be or not. Reporters camped outside his house. Documentary crews requested interviews. He hated every second of it. "I'm not a hero," he told one reporter. "I'm just a guy who got lucky enough to help some kids." "You've saved over 100 children," the reporter countered, "and there are thousands more I haven't reached. Millions maybe, so forgive me if I don't feel like celebrating." The interview went viral, not because of what he said, but how he said it. Raw, honest, angry at a system that kept failing. Within a week, donations to the foundation tripled. "You're good at this," Sarah told him. "The publicity thing." "I hate the publicity thing." "I know, but it works. Every time you do an interview, we get more funding, more volunteers, more eyes watching the system." "Fine, but no more reality show offers. That producer who wanted to film the Gresham house, absolutely not." "Agreed, some boundaries are non-negotiable." But the attention brought problems too. Death threats started arriving. Anonymous letters calling Jake a vigilante, a criminal, a troublemaker. One letter was particularly detailed about what they'd do to Marcus if Jake didn't back off. Jake called the police. They took a report but couldn't do much without knowing who sent it. "You should consider security," Detective Williams suggested. "I'm not putting my kid in a bubble because some coward sent a letter." "Jake, these threats are incredible. So were the threats against Patricia, against David, against every kid who spoke up. We don't back down because bad people make threats." But privately, Jake was terrified. He started checking the locks 3 times a night, installed cameras around the house, asked chains to do security sweeps every evening. Marcus noticed. "You're scared." "I'm careful." "That's not what your face says." Jake sighed, and someone sent a mean letter. "I'm making sure we're safe. Because of me. Because of all of us." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "If something happens to me, will you still help the other kids?" "Nothing's going to happen to you." "But if it does," Marcus stopped. "Dad, I need to know. Promise me you won't stop, even if I'm not here." Jake pulled her close. "Nothing is going to happen to you, I promise." "You can't promise that. Bad things happen even when good people try to stop them. You said so yourself." She was right, and it killed him. "If, and this is a big if, something happened to you, I'd burn the world down finding whoever did it. And then I'd keep fighting because you'd want me to happy." Marcus smiled. "Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear." The threats escalated. A brick through the window, graffiti on the garage door, someone slashed Jake's truck tires. The club mobilized posting guards at both houses, but they couldn't be everywhere all the time. Sarah called with worse news. "The appeals are starting. Henderson got a lawyer. So did director Marcus. They're both claiming wrongful prosecution." "You're kidding." "I wish I was." Henderson's saying David fabricated abuse allegations. Marcus is saying his conviction was based on coerced testimony from children who were manipulated by you. That's insane. That's the legal system. They're entitled to appeals. Doesn't mean they'll win, but it's going to drag everything back into court. Which means the kids have to testify again. Maybe. We'll fight to keep them out of it, but no, absolutely not. These kids have been through enough. I agree. But Jake, if we don't let them testify, the convictions might get overturned. Jake wanted to scream, wanted to break something, wanted to find Henderson and director Marcus and make them understand what they'd done to these children. Instead, he called a house meeting. All 13 kids gathered in the Gresham living room. Jake stood at the front, Reaper and Sarah flanking him. "We've got a situation," Jake said. "The people who hurt you, some of them are trying to get out of prison. They're saying you lied, that I manipulated you into making false accusations." The room erupted in angry voices. "That's not true," Emma shouted. "I didn't lie," David said, standing up. "Everything I said happened." "I know," Jake said. "I believe you. Everyone here believes you. But the courts might ask you to testify again, to prove you were telling the truth." "I'll do it," David said immediately. "Me too," Emma added. One by one, every kid over 10 volunteered, even Jasmine, who'd only been with them a few months. "You don't have to," Jake said. "This isn't your responsibility." "Yes, it is," David said. "If we don't fight, they win. And if they win, other kids get hurt. You're 13. I'm old enough to know what's right. And this is right." Jake looked at Sarah. She nodded. "All right," Jake said. But we do this carefully. Therapy before, therapy after. And if anyone changes their mind, that's okay. No pressure, no judgment. The appeals hearings were brutal. Defense attorneys tore into the kids trying to catch them in inconsistencies, painting them as troubled youth with behavioral problems who'd fabricate stories for attention. David sat in the witness box, jaw clenched, as Henderson's lawyer questioned him. Isn't it true you've been diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder? Yeah, because I was being abused. Or because you have authority issues and lash out when you don't get your way. Or because adults kept hurting me and I learned to fight back. The lawyer tried a different angle. You're quite comfortable with Mr. Morrison, aren't you? Yeah, he's good to me. Would you say you'd do anything to make him happy? David's eyes narrowed. What are you implying? I'm asking if you might exaggerate or fabricate testimony to please someone who's been kind to you. I'm not lying. Everything I said happened, and you trying to twist my words doesn't change the truth. The courtroom was silent. The lawyer backed off. Emma was next. At 11, she faced the judge and Henderson's lawyer with surprising composure. Tell us about your time at Riverside, the lawyer said. Emma described it all. The fear, the hunger, the night she'd held her sisters while they cried. When she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. That's quite a story, the lawyer said. It's not a story, it's what happened. And you expect us to believe an 11-year-old's memory is that detailed. I expect you to look at the evidence, medical records, photos, testimony from 20 other kids who said the same thing. I expect you to do your job instead of trying to get a child abuser out of prison. The judge actually smiled. The appeals were denied. All of them. Henderson stayed in prison. Director Marcus stayed in prison. Justice imperfect as it was held. But the victory felt hollow when Jake learned about another facility, this time in Eugene, run by Director Marcus's brother. You're kidding, Jake said when Sarah told him. I wish. Gregory Marcus, same playbook as his brother. We're getting reports of abuse, financial fraud, everything. How many kids? 31. Jake closed his eyes. When do we move? We're building the case now. Should be ready to raid in 2 weeks. Make it 1. Jake. 1 week, Sarah. I'm not waiting for another kid to die while we dot I's and cross T's. They raided the Eugene facility 6 days later. 31 kids removed. Gregory Marcus arrested. But 2 kids were already dead, buried in unmarked graves behind the building. Jake stood over those graves shaking with rage and grief. 2 more, he said. 2 more kids who should be alive. Reaper put a hand on his shoulder. And 31 who are alive because you move fast. Not fast enough. It's never fast enough. But Jake, you can't carry every death. It'll destroy you. Maybe I should be destroyed. Maybe that's what I deserve for not doing more sooner. That's the trauma talking. Don't let it win. Jake looked at him. How do you do this? Fight this fight without going crazy? I remember why we started. We started because one little girl chose your garage. Because she was brave enough to ask for help and you were brave enough to give it. Everything else, all the kids we've saved, all the facilities we've shut down, it all came from that one moment. That's not nothing, brother. That's everything. Jake wanted to believe him. Some days he could. Other days all he saw were the ones they'd lost. Marcus turned 6. They threw a party at the Gresham house, all the kids, the club members, Sarah and her team. Marcus wore a crown David had made her and sat at the head of the table like royalty. Make a wish, Jake told her, lighting the candles. Marcus closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet with tears. What did you wish for? Sophie asked. I can't tell or it won't come true. That's a dumb rule, Sophie declared. Sophie, Emma warned. Well, it is. Marcus laughed. I'll tell you later. Just us girls. She blew out the candles. Everyone cheered. Jake cut the cake watching these kids, his kids, laugh and play and just be children for a few hours. Later, after the party wound down, Marcus found Jake on the back porch. Want to know what I wished for? She asked. I thought you couldn't tell. I can tell you, you're my dad. Jake smiled. All right, what did you wish for? I wish that every kid who's scared right now finds someone like you. Someone who doesn't give up on them. Jake's throat tightened. That's a good wish, kid. Do you think it'll come true? I don't know, but we'll do everything we can to make it happen. Marcus nodded satisfied. Then, Dad, are you happy? What kind of question is that? You always look sad, even when you're smiling. I just want to know if you're happy. Jake thought about it, really thought about it. Was he happy? He was exhausted, traumatized, angry at a system that kept failing. But when he looked at Marcus, at the life they'd built together, at the 13 kids sleeping safe in the house behind them, yeah, he said, I think I am. Are you? Well, yeah, I'm happy, but I'd be happier if you were happier. I'm working on it. Good, because you deserve to be happy too, you know. Out of the mouths of babes. A year after Marcus had climbed onto Jake's motorcycle, the foundation was running 3 group homes across Oregon and Washington. They'd shut down 12 abusive facilities, saved over 200 kids, trained hundreds of volunteers in trauma-informed care, and the calls kept coming. Jake answered every single one. Some nights he'd be up until 3 in the morning talking kids through crises, coordinating rescues, building cases. Sarah worried he'd burn out. Reaper said he needed to delegate. Marcus just made sure he ate and slept when he forgot to do it himself. You're doing too much, Sarah said after he'd gone 48 hours without sleep coordinating a rescue in Boise. There's too much to do. Then we hire more people, build more infrastructure. You can't be the only one carrying this weight. I'm not. I've got the club. I've got you. And you've got a 6-year-old who needs her father present, not half dead from exhaustion. That hit home. Jake looked at Marcus, who was doing homework at the kitchen table, periodically glancing over to make sure he was okay. You're right, he admitted. I usually am. So here's what we're doing. We're hiring a full-time case manager, someone to field calls, triage situations, coordinate with you, but not require you to personally handle everything. Who? Patricia. She wants the job. Said it's her way of making amends. Jake thought about Patricia, who'd risked everything to expose Riverside, who testified despite death threats, who dedicated herself to making sure no other child suffered what she'd witnessed. Offer her the position, Jake said. Patricia started 2 weeks later. The difference was immediate. Jake still handled the major cases, still went on rescues, still testified in court. But he wasn't doing it alone anymore. He could sleep, could spend evenings with Marcus without his phone ringing every 10 minutes, could breathe. How are you feeling? Sarah asked him one day. Tired, but good tired, like we're actually making progress. We are. The state's overhauling their entire foster care system. New regulations, better oversight, mandatory reporting. It's not perfect, but it's better. Because we forced their hand. Because you forced their hand. Don't downplay what you did, Jake. What he did. What they all did. What started with one scared little girl and turned into a movement. Jake got the call on a Tuesday. Marcus was at school. David was at basketball practice. The house was quiet. Mr. Morrison, a familiar voice. Director Marcus, the original one. Jake's blood went cold. How did you get this number? I have friends, even in prison. His voice was smooth, calculated. I hear you're quite the hero now. What do you want? To make a deal, I have information about other facilities, bigger operations than anything you've uncovered. Names, locations, everything. In exchange for what? Reduced sentence, transfer to minimum security, maybe even early parole. Jake's grip tightened on the phone. You want me to help get you out of prison? I want to help you save more children. Isn't that what this is all about? This is about justice, something you will never understand. Justice is subjective, Mr. Morrison. I did what I had to do to survive in a broken system. You're doing the same thing now, just from a different angle. We're nothing alike. Aren't we? You break rules to save kids. I broke rules to profit from them. Both of us operating outside the system we claim to be fixing. The difference is I'm not hurting children. Neither was I. I was running a business. The kids were, incidental. Jake saw red. You killed my brother. You killed Tommy. You killed Michael and Emma and those 2 kids in Eugene. That's not incidental. That's murder. Prove it. Oh, wait, you already tried, and I'm still appealing. I'll be out in 5 years, maybe less. But if you help me now, I'll give you information that could save hundreds, maybe thousands. Isn't that worth swallowing your pride? Jake wanted to reach through the phone and strangle him. I'd rather let those facilities operate than give you 1 second of freedom. Even if kids die, while you're being self-righteous. I'll find them without your help. Will you? How many have you missed already? How many children are suffering right now while you waste time building cases the legal way? Jake hung up, threw his phone across the room, stood there shaking with rage. When he could breathe again, he called Sarah, told her about the conversation. He's playing you, Sarah said. Whatever information he claims to have, it's either worthless or a trap. But what if it's real? What if there really are more facilities and we could shut them down? Not at the cost of letting that monster go free. Jake, he killed your brother. He killed multiple children. You can't make deals with people like that. Even to save more kids. Especially to save more kids. Because if we start compromising our principles, we become what we're fighting against. Jake knew she was right, but the doubt lingered. What if he was letting his personal vendetta prevent him from helping children? What if his need for revenge was costing lives? He didn't sleep that night. Marcus found him on the couch at 3 a.m. Dad, why are you awake? Just thinking. She climbed up beside him. About the bad man who called. Jake's head snapped toward her. How did you know about that? I heard you talking to Sarah. The walls are thin. You shouldn't be listening to adult conversations. You shouldn't be making deals with people who hurt kids. I'm not good because he's lying. Whatever he said, he's lying. Bad people always lie when they're losing. How'd you get so smart? I learned from you. Marcus snuggled against his side. Don't let him in your head, Dad. He wants you to doubt yourself. Don't let him win. Out of the mouths of babes. The Foundation's 2-year anniversary fell on the same day Jake had first found Marcus in his garage. They held a celebration at the Gresham house. All the kids they'd saved, over 300 now, were invited. Not everyone could make it, but enough came that the house overflowed with laughter and life. Marcus stood on a chair to make a speech. 2 years ago, I was really scared. I ran away from a bad place and I didn't know if I'd find help or just more bad things. But I found Jake, and he saved me. Not just that day, but every day since. And because he saved me, he saved all of you too. So I think we should say thank you. 300 voices shouted, "Thank you, Jake." Jake couldn't speak, could barely see through the tears. Reaper handed him a microphone. Speech, Dad. Jake cleared his throat. I'm not good at speeches, but I want you all to know something. You saved me as much as I saved you. Before Marcus showed up, I was just existing, going through the motions, waiting to die. But she gave me a reason to fight, and all of you gave me a reason to keep fighting. So thank you for trusting me, for being brave, for surviving. The applause was deafening. Later, after most people had left, Sarah found Jake on the porch. You know what you've built here is remarkable, right? We built it, all of us. But you started it, one man who couldn't walk away from a child in need. That's who you are, Jake Morrison. That's your legacy. My legacy is 13 dead kids who we couldn't save in time. Your legacy is 300 living kids who have futures because of you. Don't let the grief eclipse the good. Jake looked out at the yard where Marcus was playing with Sophie and Riley, all 3 girls laughing like they'd never known fear. David was teaching some of the younger kids to shoot hoops. Emma was helping set up for another round of cake. This was his family now, not by blood, but by choice, by survival, by love. I'm going to keep doing this, Jake said, for as long as I can, until every kid is safe. I know, we all will. Even after I'm gone. Sarah smiled. Especially after you're gone. You started something that's bigger than any one person now. This movement, this mission, it's going to outlive all of us. Jake liked that idea, that even when he was dust, kids would still be getting saved. Facilities would still be getting shut down. The work would continue. Marcus ran over breathless and grinning. Dad, come play. We need another person for dodgeball. I'm too old for dodgeball. You're never too old for dodgeball. Come on. Jake let her pull him toward the game. Let himself laugh. Let himself for one afternoon just be a dad playing with his kid. Because Sarah was right. The grief was real. The losses were real. But so was this. So was the laughter and the healing and the future they were building together. That night, tucking Marcus into bed, she asked him the same question she'd asked a year ago. Are you happy, Dad? This time, Jake didn't hesitate. Yeah, kid, I'm happy. Good, me too. She fell asleep holding Tyler the dog, safe and loved, and home. Jake stood in her doorway for a long time, watching her breathe, thanking whatever force in the universe had sent her to his garage that cold April morning. He'd made a lot of promises in his life, broken most of them, but the promise he'd made to Marcus to keep her safe, to fight for kids who couldn't fight for themselves, to never stop, until the system was fixed, that was one he'd keep. For Marcus, for Tyler, for every child who'd ever been failed by the people meant to protect them. This was his life now, his purpose, his redemption, and he wouldn't have it any other way. Because on a cold April morning, 2 years ago, a 5-year-old girl climbed onto a Harley Davidson and asked to be saved, and in saving her, Jake Morrison had saved himself, and that changed everything.